Welcome to Paranormal Heart, a place where people can talk about their paranormal experiences. With your host, Kat Ward.
Welcome back, folks, to Paranormal Heart Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have another great episode. I am joined by longtime friend, Vinnie Vineyard, a.k.a. Funkmaster V, who I cheekily call Hunkmaster V. He wears many, many hats and has an impressive background which includes stand-up comedian, professional wrestler, musician, paranormal investigator, actor, producer. I could go on and on. Vinnie discusses how he got into acting, directing, and editing award-winning movies, paranormal investigating, and talks about one such encounter with Spearfinger located in the Smokey Mountains. Folks, you'll notice towards the end of the episode some strange things happen with the recording as Vinnie speaks about Spearfinger. I speculate that Reptilians have briefly interfered with the connection and perhaps Spearfinger resumes his encounter by continuing to mimic him to finish the episode. Or perhaps it's simply I lost power due to nasty storms in the area and Mr. Vineyard was gracious enough to send me an audio clip to finish this encounter, enabling me to be creative to ensure the show goes on. You be the judge. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or have questions, comments, or just want to say hello, drop me an email at paranormalheart13@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoy the show, please like, share, and subscribe. It's one of the many ways to show your support and get the show out there. You can find me on YouTube, Podbean, FringeRadioNetwork.com, KPNL Digital Network on Thursday nights, and any place you find fine podcasts. You can also join me on Discord, where we can chat while listening to new episodes as they are released on the second and last Sunday of each month at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, on with the show. Hello, Hunkmaster. Welcome back to Paranormal Heart.
It's about time. I thought you didn't like me no more.
Oh, that's not true. I love you.
Well, you better. It's hurtful sometimes. No, it's been a while. The last time I was on here, I was eating a terrible fast food sandwich while I was starving while I was doing it. I felt like it was a terrible interview, so I'm here to redeem myself.
See, I didn't even know that.
I think I told you. You weren't even listening. That's how bad it was.
I have a bad memory. I really do.
I just remember I wasn't happy with myself.
I was happy.
Well, I know you were, but you're easily impressed or something. I'm not sure.
The little things that impress me.
Yes. Well, then never mind.
You have been a busy man ever since since you were on last time. You've been up to a lot of stuff.
I've been up to no good. A lot of prowling. A lot of peeping in the windows, hijinks.
That's you?
Yeah. I keep leaving you calling cards, but I think that identify who I'm about. I think some sort of animal's taking them off into the night. No, I just, we last time we talked, I can't remember when that was. It was a couple years ago, but I've gotten into the movie making business, and I'm making. Sometimes I'm making horror movies, horror comedies about the things that we run into during, or things that we think we may be running into when we're doing paranormal investigations, and that's been fun. It was kind of like bringing some of the stuff that we run into the light. Our first movie, The Hike, which is available on Amazon Prime to people not in Canada, apparently.
Yeah. I'm not happy about that.
You can buy our DVDs now on Amazon anywhere in the world, but the first movie, The Hike, is there's a lot going on with it, but at the heart of it, it was basically we run into the Cherokee legend of Spearfinger, which is a big deal down in Tennessee where I live, in North Carolina specifically, but. Yeah, it was. We had an investigation with Wrestling with Ghosts, which is a TV show I do for a couple weird small stations, but it's a lot of fun. But we investigated Spearfinger in 2020, or maybe it was 2019. But then we had a couple of weird run-ins trying to chase that legend down, and then when the pandemic happened, Luke and I decided to start making movies. And so the first culprit, the first bad guy we were going to put in was Spearfinger, and we did, and we were happy with what happened and all that jive. But yeah, been busy.
I'm looking forward to being able to finally watch some of your movies. I mentioned that. I mentioned that a lot.
Yeah, you do. We got two out, and we're working on a third, which is another. The third is a secret. There's like a little non-lame, hopefully, M. Night Shyamalan twist on the third one. So, but it's about all these. We're doing 6 movies right now based on the Smokey Mountain Chronicles. I mean, that's what we're calling them. The Smokey Mountain Chronicles are based on legends and lore of the Smoky Mountains, Great Smoky Mountains stuff going on in the mountains, and some of those are not as obvious as some people might think. Some of them are the kind of the bad guys of the area, but or the cryptids or what have you, the nefarious ones. But some are a little bit. They're going to be a little bit surprising who we just select. But yeah, I can't wait for you to see them.
I can't wait either. Did you decide to make movies because of the pandemic and you weren't able to get out and do investigations like a lot of us?
Well, in a way, Luke had always been wanting to do a movie. And since I do the editing for Wrestling with Ghosts, I knew that was going to fall a lot on me. And I just didn't want to I wanted to skirt the responsibility of doing a movie. Luke does his fair share, but editing is a bastard. Can we say that in Canada?
Yes, you can.
All right, beautiful. It's a sword up there, isn't it? Or I don't know. But anyway, editing is a bastard. It is a bear. That's something we could say everywhere. It's a bear. So I didn't want to do it, and then when he kept talking about doing this horror movie, and I was like, man, I don't want to do no horror movies. And he eventually, during the pandemic, there was a report that said every production house had shut down. And that's when I was like, this is our time to strike. And it was a good decision because we were able to get our movie onto a major platform, and we got our second movie that was picked up. We actually had a distributor come towards us for that one. So I'm excited about the future, and it was for once in my career, it was the time to strike instead of being about 7 years too late. But yeah, it was cool. That was basically the genesis of why we started it.
I can't imagine editing movies because I struggle with editing audio, and it's tricky. I'm starting to get the hang of it. My friend Brian Anderson has been mentoring me for the past few years, but a lot more so the past year. But it's not easy, I find. Do you find it's struggling as well for editing video?
It's horrible. It's when a movie goes off the air, all those names are not just people they like or the phone book. It's people that actually went in and did crap on the movie. And when it goes off the air, you're like, oh, this is taking 9 minutes to see these microscopic names. Well, I mean, post-production, that's all me and maybe a couple of people that help out a little bit. When things are going on, there's a lot of hands on deck, but the editing is a nightmare. The hike, I had to learn a lot on how to edit a movie that was going to be picked up and could be shown worldwide. And then with this next movie that we did, WJHC, which is about a radio station during Return of Christ during the Y2K, which is I think it's a funny movie. I had a college education course. The first movie, off and on, took me about 6 months to edit. I couldn't believe it took that long. It was probably about 3. And then I kept tweaking it because there was things I was doing wrong, and I had to separate audio and this, that, and the other. I kept making mistakes. The second one took about 3.5 to 4 months to edit. So I think I'm getting a little bit better, but it still was a lot more than I thought. To get this thing all over the world this time, I had to get a bunch of new programs, and you know how that is. You were talking about a new program before we got on the air that you have to deal with. So it's always a learning process. Technology changes. These platforms that show movies, their requirements change, and they're fairly irritating because they change, I think, just for the sake of change, or to limit how many people can submit projects. But it's rough, but it's rewarding. I think when you have a movie and you're in a theater and it's full of people and they're laughing at the right parts, and they're not laughing at the parts they're not supposed to laugh at, it's a nice feeling. And when people get out of there and like, man, like I just got messages this morning. This guy said, I just bought both your movies. I love both of them. Somebody else sent me a message this morning. They're going to watch it tonight, the new one. Nice. They can't wait. So it's nice to kind of get encouragement. And they're people I don't know. They're just messaging me out of the blue. So it's that is a good feeling. So it's worth it, the editing. Yeah,
so all that hard work that you're putting in, it's nice getting some feedback.
Yeah, well, the first movie did real well. The editing, what you learn too, is they give an Oscar for best. Excuse me, I was being possessed there for a second, but I rebuked it. They give out an Oscar for director near the end of the show, and whoever wins best picture, that goes to the producers. The editing Oscar, I think they give it like it's in a wharf. You have to go to a wharf on a dock, and a guy in a brown trench coat hands you the Oscar. It's a piece of crap that they do that. It's a crappy thing because I think the editing is really, you could take Schindler's List and edit it. Yep. And if you didn't know what you were doing, you could make that the worst movie in history. No matter what the director, no matter what the writers wrote, no matter what all the people in the crew did, no matter what the actors did, the editor could have ruined it. I think an editor deserves a lot more praise in the movie making industry, but that's just the way of the world. I think the people in our society that deserve praise don't get it. Yeah. Mothers that keep families together don't get a lot of praise, but we're going to watch Johnny Depp for 3 weeks because we care about his crappy relationship for some reason. And I got to admit, I'm watching it too.
Yeah, I am too.
But I'm like, I don't have a vested interest. I don't like either one of them. I think he's kind of a jerk, and I think she, he's obviously an alcoholic and had problems, and he wouldn't have been easy to live with. And slamming doors and stuff like that is a form of intimidation and domestic abuse, no matter what you think. But I think she is probably the biggest liar and sociopath I've seen since people in my own family. And that's probably why we're watching it so intently, is because it reminds us of people when they're up there and she says, my dog stepped on a bee. Oh. And you're like, what? Yeah. It's like somebody with a psychological problem or a borderline personality disorder trying to act like a human being. It's almost like watching an alien try to act like a person. She's up there wincing at the wrong moments and stuff. And anyway, not to get off on that stuff, but like people, I think editors deserve more praise because I'm an editor among everything else. I guess I want more praise, but I think editors do a lot of work and they shape whatever you see. And I think a lot of the movies that you see that you think suck, probably it was the editor's fault. And a lot of movies that you think are great, they're like the offensive line in American football. I don't know if you know what that means, but they don't get praise. No. The running back that runs for a 90-yard run, he gets all the accolades, but the offensive line who created the holes for him to run through, nobody talks about them. And so I think that's the one thing about editing. Anybody that's in the editing process can probably nod their head to that stuff. So.
Yeah, I totally appreciate people who do this for a living. When I first started my podcast for the first 3 years, I used to just record, send it to Brian Anderson. He would fix everything up for me, put the intro and outro and everything together for me. Bob's Your Uncle. It was magic. And then I started doing it myself, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Lots of video tutorials from him, lots of Skype calls from him, trying to help me out here. And it's not easy. And even book narration, because I'm doing that now. And a friend of mine just narrated a book, and all he had to do was go into the studio, read what he had to read, and then he had what are they called, editing engineer, work all the magic, and it's not easy. So how long would you say that you sit down in your studio to edit a day?
Oh, well, it just depends on what we're doing. Like this morning out of Chicago, I was editing a wrestling show for a friend of mine out of Chicago who does the retro circuits.
So you don't just do your own movies?
No, I do Wrestling with Ghosts, which is our TV show. Yep. I have another show called It Happened to Me, which I edit. We do comedy, sketches. We do video game stuff, but we also make music videos. There's a country music artist named Emmy Sunshine. We've done a couple of her videos. The last one's gotten really good reviews, but I don't edit all the time. I mean, I write, I perform in almost all the stuff we do. I'm an actor. I've got 2 movies that I'm starring in. I'm not just in the movie. I'm actually the lead in 2 movies coming out of movies that has nothing to do with me. I've just been hired to be this actor. So it's more of a, and like Monday we were just doing an investigation for Wrestling with Ghosts. So I was part of the crew. I was part of the lead. Me and Luke ran the investigation, and everybody else kind of did what we said and filmed what we wanted them to film, so everybody can get it on camera. But I got to edit that later and gather all the footage and package that up and all that stuff. So it depends. If I'm doing a movie, I'm probably in the studio editing anywhere up to 40 hours a week. Or less. It could be 10 or 20 or something like that, but it's always a lot. If there's an editing day, it's normally a 12 to 16-hour day. So,
wow.
Yeah.
It's a long-ass day.
It's a long-ass day. It's hard work.
Yeah.
You're trying to sit there and do sound engineering. You're trying to fix the colors, color correction. You're trying to decide what to put in, which take to take. And if we have a scene where we've done 4 takes or whatever, we got to look at each. I got to look at each one, and so it's that thing. So yeah, it's a long ass thing.
And you have to think of the background noise that you don't want too.
Yeah, so that's sound engineering is a big deal. Sound will kill or make your movie. A lot of amateur filmmakers don't understand. You can't have air conditioning on when you're recording stuff. You can't have, your camera making noise. There's a lot of beginner stuff. You can't have somebody screwing around with a mic. You can't have wind. You can't have a dog barking, or if you do, you just leave it in there and decide. But you got to have the dog barking through every cut. So if the dog's only yapping when it's like a guy, 3/4 of the female, and it goes to the male and the dog's not barking, you got to then extrapolate that dog barking and then during the breaks and put it in to hers, and you got to bleed audio all over the place. Yeah, it's a mess.
So when you do your movies, is it strictly outside, or are you in a studio as well?
The hike was all outside, if you don't count being in a car for a moment. And there's a lot of challenges with that, with sound. And then you learn how to remove wind noise. You learn how to put in wind noise to kind of homogenize the different wind noises from each take. And when you're recording with a nice stereo mic, the wind's coming from a different direction So you don't want to do that to your audience where they feel like they're about to throw up. It's like you're disorienting them. So you got to pan that stuff out too. WJHC was mainly indoors. It was a movie about a radio station, even though there's quite a bit outside too. But indoors has its own problems, especially when you're trying to film in an operating television station, pretending it's a radio station at night. There's all sorts of weather channels breaking in and blaring. There's a police scanner going that blares out over the whole station that we didn't have the key to get in that room to turn that down. So we'd have to cut for that kind of stuff, or and then air conditioning and lights and the machines. There's always a irritating hum that you have to suppress. So it's just a mess. That rhymed.
Now, when you're doing your movies, have you ever had paranormal experiences happen at the same time?
Yeah, but you're so busy you can't deal with it. Like the radio station or the television station we filmed out for this WJHC movie, WJHC AM, had a guy in the basement. There's a basement apartment underneath. In fact, if you ever watched the movie, there's a scene where I'm running from a devil, and I try to go into this door, and there was so much to do. It's also, this movie's based in the 90s, so I'm wearing these long 90s. You remember the long pants when people wore oversized blue jeans. So I'm so lame, I still had some of those. I didn't even have to go to a thrift shop. So I got those.
No props there.
Yeah. So I had those on. So I'm fighting this jabron, this demon on camera for about 20 minutes. And then the scene is me running to the basement. And if you see that, I slip and fall. And everybody on set was like, because I fell hard. But I'm a wrestler, and for some reason that stuff doesn't hurt. And I popped right back up. And they were like, did you do that on purpose? I was like, hell no. But it looked good, so we're going to keep it. But that room, the reason I even bring that story up, that room that I was trying to get into is a basement apartment of the television station. And there was a guy who had committed suicide in that apartment. And the folks who believe in such things say that that there are spirits and things moving around. So when we were filming there were people like, there was a voice coming out of this office, but when you're filming a movie, you're like, okay, whatever, we gotta get on with this. Everybody's getting sleepy and or whatever. We gotta get through the night. So because we had to shoot at night, the television station didn't even know we were shooting there because of coronavirus, because they didn't want people to know that people were getting into the building, because they didn't want their radio preachers or television preachers to come in and start doing their shows live. Yep. They were like, nope, it's closed. We don't, because they preferred not dealing with those knuckleheads. And, because if you know a preacher, they come in there and they will not shut up. It's one of those things, they won't leave for 50 minutes. So, and they're nice people, don't get me wrong, but they're like, this runs a lot smoother if nobody comes in here to talk to us. So they didn't want the community to know. It's like a community television station. They didn't want the community to know that people were coming in filming or whatever. So we had to do it in the middle of the night so people get tired. So we didn't have a lot of time to investigate the stuff going around.
Now, some of the audio, you said there was voices coming from that room. Did you pick that up on audio as well?
At that
or
point,
did you notice?
At that point, you just you don't look for it, because you're just too busy trying to make the movie decent.
I just didn't know if something really stood out and you're like, what the hell was that?
Nothing crazy in these we're filming our third movie right now. Nothing crazy yet. Now this third movie is Camp Smokey, and there's an abandoned camp that I've gotten the rights to, and I bet that's got some creepy stuff going on in there. This looks like a horror movie. You just have to, if somebody put an iPhone up and just let it roll, it looks creepy enough. So,
do you think you'll get a chance to investigate that campsite sometime?
If we find something, just because something looks creepy doesn't mean it's going to produce anything. Yeah. But and sometimes something's not haunted in paranormal stuff. it's not known to be haunted, and then there's all sorts of stuff going on.
Yep.
We just did an investigation Monday with Wrestling with Ghosts of this place called the Greenback Castle. The Greenback Castle.
Yeah, I saw you post that on Facebook. That looked beautiful.
Well, it's nuts. The pictures don't do it justice either way. The guy who ran, I got heat from this too, because I said the guy was eccentric. I'm not even saying what I really think the guy is. The guy, well, this is a Canadian thing. I'll say that I think the guy's a complete nut job. He's a nutter, as the British would say. He has made this castle his whole life, and everything about it on the outside, he handwrites, or he sculpts, or he does artwork, these phrases. He hand paints or whatever he does into the walls. And most everything is about Jesus and God and all this stuff and life after death. And people get swept up in that. They're like, well, he's a good Jesus, God-fearing guy. And he may be. I don't know. I don't care. But whatever he wants to do, he can do it. However, intertwined with all these messages is this structure that has many rooms that don't make sense. There's no structure sense. He's built it at different times of his life, and embedded in the walls are things like skulls, occultic symbols, Nordic writing. He has a torture chamber in there. So it's like, yeah, that's a man of God, right? A pet cemetery that looks something like it came out of a horror movie. And I'm not saying the guy's a bad man, but there's there's a dichotomy of vibes. And a couple of the women that come with us, and it seems like 99% of all females on a paranormal team are psychics or mediums. Anyway, they all felt like he put his own darkness into the structure. Like, this is a complete, well, I wouldn't say complete, but this is some sort of avatar or an imprint, this building, of who he is as a human being. Because human beings are all messed up. We all, we're good. Yeah. There's the id, the ego, and the superego. There's good, there's evil. There's a black wolf inside and a white wolf. And if you're from Mexico, a Hispanic wolf. But there's all these different types of flavors inside of us and different ways to think. And they said that he put a lot of his own darkness into these walls. And I think, I don't know if that's bullcrap or not, but to me, I could see that. Like, you have something that talks about Christ as king, and then right next, in the next room, there's a bunch of skulls and a bunch of occultic symbols and stuff like that. And it's just like, I think this guy is eccentric. So there's no evidence of that place ever being haunted. In fact, I got flamed for that. In paranormal world, people get mad at you if you start saying things are haunted that's not supposed to, or the general public. Mm-hmm. Quit trying to make things evil or whatever. And just because it's paranormal doesn't mean it's evil.
Exactly.
Or dark. It just means there's something there that you can't. That's beyond the norm. That's all that really means. And so there is something there. We captured on camera a chess piece moving by itself, and tons of voices, and then all the psychics and mediums or whatever we had with us, they were saying there's women and men and a dark spirit and things moving around that shouldn't move, and voices and stuff. And we'll get all the evidence later, but it was a complete circus at night. The place looks completely different at night, which I guess you could say that about everywhere, but the flavor definitely changed, because it is kind of campy and silly. And at night, it looks like, what is this structure and why? What? Look it up. It's the Greenback Castle in Greenback, Tennessee. It's a cool place, and it's a roadside attraction. It closes at 8. All you have to do is drive up to it. It is in a weird little neighborhood in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. You just kind of roll up. He may come out there and try to give you blueberries and talk to you. And if you're a woman, he will definitely flirt with you. He's that kind of old man, but he's innocent enough. But the structure is so nutty that the first time we were there, we lost our footage, but we saw the chess piece move on camera again, or the first time. And at that point, it freaked me out that I thought the guy was in the walls of the building. Like, I thought he had secret passages and stuff going, because I was like, there's no way, because the piece moved behind my back. Mm-hmm. And I was like, there's this guy's like looking at the girls and running through it. And that's not fair to say, but that was what I was thinking at the time. I think the guy's innocent enough, but that was a wild thought process to go through.
When was this built?
That's a good question. Tracy, who stars in our movie WJHCAM, she was there early to make sure we had permission to stay late. She kind of went on the tour with the guy, and I don't know, but he has built it over years. What is that house out in California? Is it It's there's a house out there where the lady was prophesied. Somebody, a fortune teller, told her that if you constantly hear hammers going or the sound of construction, that you'll never die. So she built this house with all these rooms and steps leading to nowhere.
Oh,
and doors.
Yeah. I can't remember what it's called.
It's like that. It's perpetually being built, or it was. I think he's to the age now where he can't really do anything. There's part of the castle that's not completed.
So he's still alive working on it?
Yeah, he's the guy out there, yeah. Well, he's not really, I don't think he's doing anything. He just comes out there, and he'll come out there, and he's a groundskeeper, too. He'll probably mow it, and he'll probably talk to people, and he'll move some stuff around or whatever. But, yeah, he'll clean. Yeah, there's an inside. There's rooms, and there's one room. I think he tried to make like a youth group room or something out of it, which is kind of funny, where he put stuff down there he thought kids would like, and there's like a Bible down there, but everything's covered in crud. Because it's mainly outdoors. There's no shutting doors or nothing. It's all open air. So everything he put down there, the radio and lights and stuff, he puts there's a bunch of dolls on a bed, and he says, hey, there's a sign that he hand wrote, says, hey, take one, and they're all covered in just butt funk. You wouldn't want to touch one of those with 10 foot. Yeah. And he's got like a little place out there to take food, and there's no telling how long that canned food's been sitting out there if you need food. So he's a good-hearted guy, I guess. Maybe a little misguided.
Like you said, eccentric.
Yes, that's the way. I don't think that's offensive. But
I don't think so either.
People have taken offense. But we live in 2022, and that's what everybody likes to do now, is get offended. But
yeah, it's ridiculous.
It is. It is.
So you said... Are you going to be it would be cool if you could film a movie there. Do you have plans to do that? Well,
actually, I just thought of this yesterday. I watched 2 movies yesterday. I watched, one's called Men, which was made by the guy that did Ex Machina. And it's a British horror movie, and it's very interesting. There's the last 20 minutes of the movie, I don't want to spoil alert, but it kind of ruins the movie for me. It's just ridiculous. But the first part was really cool, and it made me think, this third movie, could we include this particular structure? Because I just think it would look good visually. I just don't know if it makes sense story-wise, and we got to think how we can, not ruin the movie by adding it. But I think it would be a neat thing to have in the movie, at least visually, because it is striking.
Maybe it could be included at the end as a plot twist or something.
Well, there's a traveling part of the movie. That would be the only place it probably makes sense. Like if somebody ran across it, but yeah.
I'm like I've said countless times, I'm really looking forward to watching your movies. I've seen clips, and the movies are doing well, right?
Yeah, the one on Amazon the one on Amazon Prime is available in the Caribbean, the United Kingdom, and the United States. And you can now worldwide buy the DVD and Blu-ray if anybody still has those things. A lot of horror fans still watch stuff like that. That's available worldwide. And The Hike has won 36 awards. There are some people that don't like it, and there's some people, we get messages all from around the world. There's people that think it's one of their favorite movies they've ever seen. It's a different movie than you've probably. There's no movie probably like it that you've ever seen, and I love it. And then this new movie, WJHC AM, is available worldwide like the other one, and I'm excited about that. That one's gotten really good reviews so far. In fact, on IMDb, it's got a 9.5 still, which is which is really high. Normally, an Oscar winner gets like a 7.5, so we're way above that, and that'll probably calm down a little bit. But I do think if you're in the mood for a dialogue-driven comedy horror movie, you're going to be hard-pressed to find something better than that in the last few years. I'm really proud of that one. So yeah, we're holding our own, and while we learn the craft of making movies, so we've got a few tin cups for our efforts so far, and we're making a little bit of money. Nothing much, but we're not out of the hole yet. But it's getting there.
It's a start.
Yeah.
Not like you're these big Hollywood producers with big budgets and everything. So.
Oh no, these are technically called micro budget movies. Anything under 25 grand, which all three of these, I think together right now we're just getting close to 25 grand. So yeah, these are made for ultra cheap.
Do you use the same actors?
Yeah, that's one of our gimmicks too. Is we have a stable of nutty people, and I think that's one of the allures. Is it's always going to have me. In some regard, I'm not necessarily going to be the star of the movies from now on. In fact, I don't think the first two I'm the star with a female co-star, like me and I'm the male lead of the first two movies. I think after that, I'm going to peel myself back to give other people opportunities. Kind of feel like I've done my shtick, and I was the best one because I'm the best at improv to kind of get that off the ground, and now. As we mature as filmmakers, I think we'll be able to do more traditional scripts and get guys in there who have more talent than I do with acting to take over. But yeah, then Luke, who's my tag team partner, and he's in Wrestling with Ghosts, he's always going to be in them. In fact, the third movie is going to be he's the lead in that, the male lead. And then Candy is in them, who's in Wrestling with Ghosts, and Travis, who's in Wrestling with Ghosts. And then we have a group of people who are comedians and drag queens and metal musicians and rappers and furries and just a weird magicians,
awesome.
Just a weird amalgamation of just human beings of different races and sexual orientations and belief systems. So it's a good variety of human beings, and everybody was very talented. The Hike probably had 12 to 13 on-screen actors, a couple of voice actors. This last movie had almost 100 on-screen actors and voice actors. So there was a lot of help that we got from WJHCAM, and we actually it's not just a bunch our friends are doing. I mean, a couple of the roles we cast, and people got the jobs from other parts of the country and came down to shoot them. We had a guy flying from Texas. We got a radio disc jockey from Hot Springs, Arkansas. We had an actor come in from Nashville. So it's not just our friends, but it is a vehicle for all them too. And all of them, a lot of the guys are pro wrestlers too. So there's that caveat. And so yeah, there's a lot of different flavors of human beings in these things.
I've told you this before, that you are such an interesting individual. Your background, wrestler, paranormal investigator, taxi cab owner, you're just amazing.
Well, thank you. That's not even all of it, but
that's just a fraction.
It's just a little snippet of I've just always been in entertainment. I mean, I was a stand-up comic for a while. I was a professional bass player for a hip-hop and funk band for about 8 years, and we toured around. And just other things. I think, I was a stand-up comedy. I haven't been in a while. I don't even know what to call them anymore. I was a stand-up comic when I was a kid, and I wasn't very funny. I would rip off all of my shit from people that were funny or people I thought were funny, which actually probably weren't funny at the time. I liked old jokes. I liked Abbott and Costello and Henny Youngman and stuff like that. But the most hip guy that I liked at the time was David Letterman. Oh, yeah. And then I liked Second City Television. I liked a lot of the Canadians that became, icons. There's something about Jewish fellas, black guys, and people from Canada. They're just hilarious, typically. But so they kind of formed me, but I wasn't very funny. And now I'm starting to create stuff that is more humorous and hits better and is more original seeming. But really all it is my insane life experience has created these comedic situations. So these movies are a vehicle for that too. Like in these first two movies, I don't think our third one will have this, but the first two movies, there's a bunch of flashbacks. Every flashback is true, and people are like, "Did that really happen? Did that really happen?" It's kind of very. I don't know if people have watched Kevin Smith movies, but very early Kevin Smith type stuff where there were stories and flashbacks. But a lot of stuff, I didn't write any of this stuff. This stuff happened in real life. I think my talent, instead of being creatively funny, is just observing and being able to parlay that into a funny story. I think people struggle. They'll see something funny and they'll say it in one sentence. Oh, you should have seen this guy fall off the roof. But when I tell a story,
you go into detail.
I make it about a 4-minute story, and then hopefully people are laughing at that stuff. So it's funnier.
I think because of what's been going on in the past couple of years with this blasted pandemic and everything, we need a lot of humor.
Well, humor is the great salve, man. I mean, it doesn't get respected, I don't think, as much as people that act. Like, I think comedy actors don't. And people are now attacking comedy, actually physically and figuratively too. You got to be careful because we got to be able to laugh at ourselves. I don't want to get too political because I'm probably going to disappoint a lot of people on both sides of the argument because I'm not a big fan of the left-wingers or the right-wingers at this point, and haven't been for years. But I think we politicize everything, and we get angry at everything. I don't know why the pandemic became political, but it definitely did. For instance, there was a guy. This is how effed up we are. This happened last night that I was made aware of this story. This is how effed up we are. There was a guy who runs a ice cream shop here in Pigeon Forge. And if you don't know what Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg is, if you watch The Bad Vegan, it's all over that documentary that's on Netflix. But it's the second busiest tourist attraction on the East Coast. It's huge. You got the Smokey Mountains here, and then you've got something that's like Branson, Missouri, or the Dells, or Myrtle Beach, or what have you, the Hamptons or whatever. You've got this tourist trap crap that people take their families to, and it's fun and all that stuff. You'll spend $8 million here. So there's a guy locally that owns an ice cream shop. A family comes in. The family is all wearing masks. Okay? The son is autistic and has an autoimmune disorder. Mm-hmm. The reason they took the trip is they wanted to see the Titanic Museum. There's a giant Titanic here in town. And so they stopped off for ice cream. The guy, from her vantage point, told them to get out because of the masks. And it became a political thing because she's this, this guy in the South telling her to take the mask off, take the family's mask off. Well, his version of the story is he's hard of hearing, and he can't hear when people are speaking through masks. Mm-hmm. So to him, they were rude. To them, he was rude, and it became political. So if you go to this guy's Google page, it's called Country Creamery with 2 Ks. That's a little weird. One more K, then we'd have to go investigate that guy. But if you look that up in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, Country Creamery, all these people, and it's become not because of the incidents where the guy was rude or there was a misunderstanding. The kid left and wept, because he felt like he caused his family to have a nice time at the ice cream shop and he couldn't get ice cream. And the guy was, offended because he had a hearing problem. And instead of a dialogue happening, instead of people assuming this guy's in Tennessee, we're from up north, we've got masks going, he doesn't, he wanted me to remove the mask without, we are jumping to conclusions left and right in this country. And it's well, and I guess all over the world too. And,
it happens here too.
Yeah. And people are jumping to conclusions, and people aren't thinking, people aren't being empathetic, people aren't being loving, people aren't being, they're definitely not representing their God well. And this is how evil expands, is because human beings are becoming less and less connected with each other, and we're assuming, we label people, that's, if they believe in this political party, they're this, and vice versa, and it's not fair, and it's not good, and it's the way to divide the country. So yes, I think going back to your original point, comedy needs, a joke could have dissolved that whole situation. And now the family had a bad trip. The kid's got a terrible memory. And this poor guy who's running his ice cream shop, now his rating on Google is like a 2 out of 5 instead of a 4.5 or whatever it was before this thing happened. So, nobody's going to win in this situation. So that's an eye for an eye will leave the world blind. So, comedy, we don't need to attack comedy. We don't need to, people don't need to necessarily go after certain groups and make fun of people exclusively, but everybody needs to be able to make fun of themselves and take a joke. So I think comedy is very important. So
it is.
Yeah.
I like how when you mention that people just need to send love more often. For an example, I had an experience, when the pandemic first started, when it wasn't law yet that we had to wear masks. It was your choice. You could wear one or you could not wear one. And I frankly don't care, wear one or not. If you're hacking up a storm, please wear a mask or stay home, but whatever. So I had this lady come up to me and she was mad at me because I was not wearing a mask and she was ready for a fight. And I just kind of smiled at her and I said, I wish you much love and happiness in your life. You take care. And I walked away and she stood there like, what just happened? She was expecting a fight. Honey, you're not going to get it from me. It was not over a mask.
It was very volatile. There were people, people in my family were women. Men would go up to women, because men don't have balls. Men are cowards. So they would go to a woman and start yelling at them. Or there were some women that would go to women. Nobody's ever said to me, boo to me wearing a mask or not. Before the government told us what we should do, I just assumed when the pandemic was hitting, I looked at all you can do is when you're poor and you've got a family and you can't really trust the government or anybody because you don't know what you're being told is true anymore, if it's politically slanted, you just got to make your own best decisions and go with the people that you trust. And the first thing I thought of was people in Southeast Asia are constantly getting all sorts of crazy little viruses down there. And if you look at them half the time, hell, if you look at any picture of Hong Kong, there's so many people down there, everybody's wearing a mask anyway.
Yep.
It's just part of it. So I was like, let's get some of these masks. And like very shortly after that, the mask thing happened. And nobody was saying it was a barricade to stop all germs. But there were people who were sicker than others, and it's nobody's business when you go out in the public who has a good immune system, who doesn't care if they live or die, who cares, some people may not like breathing in the thing. And it came out that really the mask just helped people that had the disease from spreading it. So yeah, if you had COVID, hell yeah, you should wear the mask. You probably should stay at home. But what we learned is the separation is what really conquered the virus and not anything else. And the vaccines helped beat it down a little bit. But I just had a friend today get COVID. So, but when you get COVID now, if you're vaccinated and stuff, you're gonna beat it pretty good. But I mean, that was a jacked up situation, and I don't know where the anger comes from.
I think it's fear of the unknown.
There's always, every time something happens, these people on the internet, and again, this is the minority. I think when you're on social media, when you're trying to promote stuff, you have the mistake of thinking that everybody thinks the ways that are portrayed on social media. There's probably 80% to 85% of the people who don't get into that kind of stuff. It's just like the fringe people. But what gets me ill is the fringe people who think anything that happens in the news is a part of some giant conspiracy.
Yep.
And it kills me, because at the end of the day, if you want to know what the true conspiracies are, they go back to money and power. There's not secret organizations or pedophile Pizza Huts or, there's not a lot of reptilians running around. If you think that, then show me the proof. I don't think any of that. I think it's all about money. It's that simple. People want a yacht and a hot girlfriend on the side. And that's what it all comes down. Steak dinners at night instead of pinto beans. I think that's where all the conspiracy goes. And, and power comes along with that too. So I think that's enough fuel to do a lot of evil. And we don't need secret societies or the Illuminati or people living under the ground or aliens or Nazis or any other boogeyman that we want to come up with. It's fun to talk about that stuff, but to believe that they actually have any power in this world, I just don't see any evidence for that. I don't think anybody else does either.
We're kind of our own worst enemy.
Yeah, we don't need... when religious people tell me about the devil, I'm like, the devil can just sit back and smoke a big fat blunt and with his feet up and watch Married with Children. He doesn't need to do much, because we'll do it. We'll do the evil for him. Yeah, that's right.
Easy for him.
Exactly. Yes, easy job for that guy.
So, have you had any paranormal experiences recently that you'd like to discuss?
No.
No, you don't want to discuss them, or you haven't had any.
I've been told by this reptilian behind the computer I cannot talk about this. Let's see. What can I talk about paranormal wise? Probably something that would correlate into our movies. I think would be. This didn't happen recently, but. So I was talking about the Cherokee legend of Spearfinger was kind of the fuel for the first Boogeyman or whatever, our movie. So we did this investigation in Bryson City, North Carolina. And in the Smokey Mountains, where we live next to, there was like 20-something deaths over a 16-month period of people who've been crushed by rocks or trees. And the old MO of Spearfinger was she would either kill you with her obsidian finger. She had a long obsidian finger. Or she would crush you. She would use nature to kill you. So we went over there and said, let's go over here. And we went on the most haunted trail in North Carolina. I don't know how they decide that. I don't know if it's like a football poll or something where there's like an AP and a UPS. This week on the haunted trails in North Carolina, Norton Creek coming in at number 1, undefeated on the season at 6-0. I don't know how they determine it, but that was in her path where she was known to go. And so we went over there and respectfully asked information, because the Spearfinger too, we got a little heat for doing a movie about it being white people, which the girl that played my girlfriend in the movie is mixed, but they assume she's white. But they took it. Some people take exception that we're doing a movie about the Cherokees, and we felt like this is. I'm kind of always like, I'm a child of the '70s, so I think we're a melting pot. I like funk music. Well, that's not a white thing. I eat Hispanic food 5 times a week. That's not a white thing. I think we all. And then whatever, and even out of those things, when people are in our country, in America, we rub off on each other. It's not it's not cultural appropriation. This legend of Spearfinger affects me. It may not be my religion. It may not be from my people. But when we're out in the woods as kids, it's like, hey, Spearfinger will get you. And for people that don't know, Spearfinger is a stone goblin, or excuse me, a stone golem who is a female that can shapeshift. She can, and there's a lot of native skin walker tales. She falls into that, and she can look like your loved one. She can look like a girl you want to screw. She can look like your grandmother. She can look like a dude. And when she got you off the trail, she would stab you in the liver with her obsidian finger. That's why they call her Spearfinger. She had a black, long finger, and she'd stab you and eat your liver because she's a cannibal. And we had people calling saying, how dare you portray the Cherokee like this? And I'm like, do you want us to portray a cannibalistic child murderer as in a positive light? I don't know. But anyway, she's a bad guy. I mean, even the Cherokee killed her. So, I mean, the Cherokee are on our side, too. So, anyway, we go to investigate this, and this is where we get the information for the movie. So, we thought this would be a bullshit investigation, pardon my French, because cryptids are hard to get an episode around because you know why. They're hard to catch if they exist. So this is a spirit too. But we were told if Spearfinger is close by, you will see orange lights. I guess she's a UT Vol fan. I don't know. But or she likes Clemson or I don't know, Tampa Bay or something. But anyway, when we get down there, and it's on the episode, Wrestling with Ghosts 3.1, Spearfinger is the episode. When we get on the Norton Creek Trail, we see orange lights. We all see them on camera. And we're like, are those the effing orange lights? And if you watch our movie Spearfinger, or The Hike, which is about Spearfinger, every time she's around, you see a purple light. We chose purple because purple's sexier than orange. Nobody likes orange. So it looks better it's more feminine. So anyway, that's what we do. So anyway, we correlate that color with hers, the purple. So anyway, we go on the trail. We're bebopping along, and we constantly hear talking, screaming, yelling, information. We're going down a trail off a road called the Road to Nowhere. If you like doing road travel in this country, go to the Road to Nowhere in Bryson City. There's a tunnel that leads to absolutely nothing, leads to a trail. It's a highway. There's no houses. There's no gas stations. It just goes and goes and goes, hits a tunnel, tons of spray-painted penises inside the tunnel for your viewing pleasure, and then when you walk out of the tunnel, it goes into a trail, and there's no road after that. So there's literally is a road to nowhere. And off that mess was this Norton Creek Trail. So at 2 in the morning, we're hearing conversations. Now we're walking by a stream. Streams are always tough because you're like, am I hearing the water lapping and it sounds like a person talking? Am I hearing a rush of water in this and it sounds like whispering? But then again, you have paranormal people say that water brings spirits around or helps generate spirits. So we got this catch-22. So we're acting like a bunch of goofballs, goobers down there going, I don't know. I heard a scream. Well, I heard this. Well, we keep walking. 2 in the morning, and on this road called the Road to Nowhere, off in a trail, bada boom, nobody's around. There's no campsites, there's no highways, nothing. We're 18 miles from anything. The closest city we're close to is called an abandoned ghost town called Proctor. There's no roads to it. That's the closest city. Nobody lives there now. So we're bebopping along, and then right behind us, I hear Luke go, hey guys. Funny thing is, Luke was leading the pack, and I had the camera in the back. We turn around, and Luke is not there. Spearfinger is known as a mimic. And so we were like, what the hell was that? You know, and so we're sitting there going, is that Spearfinger? Is that Spearfinger? We keep walking, and then about 2 or 3 minutes later, a rock out of the woods, like frickin' Ryan Clemens threw it out, 90 miles an hour, flies by our heads, almost beans my daughter, and hits a tree. And it's a rock that is not it's not indigenous to that area. It shouldn't be there. And so we were like, what the heck? Because Luke is also an amateur gemologist. So we go and we get to a beaver dam. And at the beaver dam, we decide not to risk going across the beaver dam because it is late. And if something happens, an accident, then we got to carry somebody's fat ass out of the woods. And we're not doing that. And so when my daughter stopped, all these monarch butterflies land on her legs. And we were like, what is that? And they're just sitting there. And monarch butterflies, I don't know, I'm not an entomologist, but they say that they don't fly around at night. That monarch butterflies, and they don't move during the day. But they all came, landed on her, and as we went back, hand on a stack of Bibles, 25 feet tall, we didn't hear anything.
Hunkmaster, you still there? Vinnie? Vinnie? Are you okay? What's going on, Vinnie?
So everything died down after that, and it was pretty much pretty chill. But yet there was enough that happened on that trail, and enough EVPs and enough disembodied voices, that we decided that was pretty significant, whatever was going on. And we never said that we ran into Spearfinger, but there was a lot of coincidences on that trip. So yeah, we decided to make a movie out of that. So we are making 6 movies called the Smokey Mountain Chronicles, and each movie has a moral, and each movie has some sort of legend or lore as a bad guy, and some things are cryptid, and some things are paranormal, and some things are other things too. It's part of the fun and the surprise.
Oh, there you are, Vinnie. Oh, jeez, I was worried. Glad you're okay. Don't know if that was Spearfinger or if that was the Lizard Men. I don't know what's going on, but I'm glad you're back. You fought them off. So why don't you tell us where our lovely listeners can find you? And thank you so much for being on.
Okay, well, this reptilian here has got a ray gun pointed right at my head behind the monitor here, and I've got to a monitor behind a monitor, right, guy? No, didn't dig that one. All right, these reptilians don't have a good sense of humor sometimes. Basically, Cat, where people can find us is Big and Funky Productions, where we're constantly offending people. That could be Big N Funky Productions, bignfunkyproductions.com. Or you can go to our YouTube channel, where we have a weekly podcast, and we try to upload content that's fun every week. Even sometimes we fail. But the movies, you can search Amazon WJHCAM, which is our newest movie, and also The Hike, which is a movie we released last year. As always, baby, believe in the funk. And guys, we love you.
Well, we've made it to the end of another episode. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, take care of each other. And if you'd like to be on the show or have questions and comments, just drop me an email, paranormalheart13@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Paranormal Heart would like to extend a special thank you to PurplePlanet.com for supplying the music for the show. The views and opinions expressed on Paranormal Heart are those of the host and participants.
Paranormal Heart Podcast.